guys, we're so excited to be back for the week 3 of the We See Photography Challenge, and this week we have the one and only Pete Mackey. I'm so excited that he's here. I don't know if he knows this, but he's actually the reason, probably, that I went into video. Yeah,
Whoa! I remember our conversation at NCC.
that had a lot to do with it, where I was like, I don't know if this is for me, like, what am I going to do? And yeah, so it's all because of you.
Yeah, a little bit. I'll take only a little bit of credit there, but I remember you having sort of like somebody was trying to talk you out of it, but you were trying to go in that direction, and I was like, go do it, go for it, And I think I just let you know, kind of that's what I've been doing on the side, and it's great, and yeah, it was really cool, and you were like awesome, and you needed that encouragement, and then I watched you get involved with so many things after that that it was like, okay, cool, like. Sometimes I think we just need that little push from somebody else to say, like, just do the thing that you want to do. You just needed somebody to just say, just do it. Because everybody else was saying, maybe that's silly. I don't know.
So it's very special that he is here today, and he is an amazing photographer. If you've not seen his work, I'm sure you have, and you just didn't know it was his because he's so great. And do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so hey, I'm Pete Mackey. My business is Mackey Photo and Video. So I do both wedding and I do wedding photography and videography. So that's kind of how I'm branded. That's what my website kind of shows. But I do portraits. I do lifestyle. I do some corporate kind of commercial branding videos and stuff for businesses. But for the most part, to kind of label myself and put myself out there in the market. I'm mainly a wedding studio that does both photography and videography. So that's kind of where I stand in the market right now.
And you've been doing this for a long time. So how did
Yeah.
you get started?
Yeah, so good question. I started it's kind of an interesting story. So I started at ESU, right? So that's where I got my undergrad degree in media comm. It was called media comm and tech at the time. Similar program that you and Bradley came through. Same program, just rebranded. Right now, it's DMT. But yeah, basically, at first I was a science major. I was going to be a teacher, right? And then after I was doing terribly in all of my like high level science classes because I just wasn't that type of smart, um, I had a creative writing class. We were reading The Hobbit. And for that class, me and my friend Phil made a short film, and we made a short film about The Hobbit. And so we did this ridiculous film. Back then, there was no editing, so it was all done on one of those little VHS-C cameras, and we made all the cuts in camera. And for our end of year party celebration, everybody brought like hobbits like beer. So people brought in birch beer and chips, and we had this big party. And then me and Phil rolled in this like old TV cart and popped this thing in and hit play. And people were like, what just happened? So we had a lot of fun with it. And afterward, the teacher's like, are you a MediaCom major? I said, what's that? And she's like, oh, okay. You need to know what that is. So I went, and when I talked to the next time I had that talk with my advisor where he's like, why are you so bad at school? What do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, I think I have a different idea here. I'm going to pivot. At that point, I was already 3 years into college. So now I had to take all the MCOM classes in a row in 2 years to graduate as like a fifth year senior. But as soon as I got into MCOM, I got all A's. I got a 4.0. I blew right through that department. And that was kind of my start in photography and videography. So that's kind of like where I got started and what got me into it. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. And then after college, I interned at a place called MedStar Television, where I worked on the show Forensic Files. I did that for several years. I started as an intern, and then I worked my way up to assistant director. So I was kind of like doing a lot of work on the recreations of those shows. So every week we would murder somebody new, basically, is what we would do. So it was really fun. So at that time, I was just freelancing and dabbling. I was doing like a little bit of everything. Yeah, and that's kind of what got me into it. Then I got a job at Northampton Community College in 2006. I worked there for 12 years. And as I was working there, I was building my photography business on the side. So I was doing some photo and some video. And it was great because there were so many people that were like, oh, hey, I heard you took photos. Can you take photos of this or that? And it was like, you had like a little market right there.
Yeah.
So it worked well. I was able to slowly build my business. And then 2.5 years ago, I left NCC. I opened a studio on Main Street. And that's now what I'm doing.
Yeah. That's so funny that you're like, you know, you had like friends of friends like referring you, because I think like you took a friend of mine's senior pictures or family portraits or something, and then like you added me on Facebook because I had liked it, and then like that is how it's so funny that like
Exactly.
small
Like that's
world.
what happens. Somebody will comment and be like, oh my God, I love your work. And you're like, oh, who's that? And then you know, like you have 50 of the same friends or something.
Yeah.
It's like, you just add each other and then eventually you're like, oh yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how social media works. It's so powerful now. It really is when you're building a business, because you can stay in contact with so many people that in the past it would have been very hard, where you're sending out mailers and doing like, I can't even imagine what the cost would have been of that type of marketing, you know?
Definitely.
So, yeah.
So we hear that you do a lot of wedding photography, but what is your favorite kind of photography?
Yeah, so honestly, that is my favorite photography, because wedding photography is like a mix of, it's like sports photography, because it's like action and there's fast moving things and there's stuff that just happens and you're like, oh my God, like what's going on over there? So there's like crazy action and things going on. But then there's like portrait photography in there too, because you get to like slow down at one point in the day and sort of like have a little bit of control, where you're like, hey, come over here, let's create some really beautiful art. And then there's photojournalism, which is basically you're just like there observing and capturing moments as they happen. So it's this blend of like all of the photography in one. And that's why, like, wedding photography, a lot of people either they fall in love with it and like get super like, whoa, hooked into it, or people get very scared away from it because they're like, because the stakes are so high. And like, I still get a little flutter before I go to shoot every wedding. I got to like put on hype music and get myself like in the space, because like, you know, it's a super important day. And as much as I am confident in my skills, I still don't want to let anybody down. I want to bring my A game. So that's what's so fun. Whereas like portraits are great. You know, there's all sorts of photography that's like really fun and like you can be really creative, but nothing is as high stakes as like shooting someone's most important day. So that's kind of where I'm at. But my next favorite thing is like taking pictures of my kids, because I can be super creative with that. And some of the most love I've ever gotten on like any photography I've ever done have been like stuff I just shot like around my yard with my kids, where people are like, what is that? You know, like cool lighting.
They're great. They're adorable.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the other thing. They're so easy to photograph because they are cute, you know? So I'm like, hey, come over here. And Madeline's a little easier to work with because she's been going through this with me for many years. Silas is 6 and he's like, bro, what's in it for me? Like, you know, I got to really bribe him, you know? I get 60 seconds with him and then he's done, you know?
Well, this has been fun, but
Exactly.
I'm out.
Exactly.
So you mentioned that there's kind of that capturing the moment in your photography. So this week's challenge is capturing a moment. So we want you to capture a moment, and Pete is going to give us some tips on how best to do that.
So when I was asked to kind of like think about what are the 3 tips when you're capturing a moment? I'm going to move so that bright spot isn't on my head. Look at me. Oh my God, that's a little better. So sort of the first thing in capturing a moment, because capturing a moment is like what we always are dreaming of, right? And especially as like a wedding and like an event kind of photography, you're looking for that award-winning moment. You're looking for that like emotional, impactful photo that would move anybody. Like anybody can look at it and be like, there's something that I connect with in that photo. What is it that draws me in? But to do that, you have to really know your gear first. So whether that is your professional gear or even your phone, when you watch somebody like trying to, like something is happening and you're watching them, they don't even know how to swipe into, like get the camera app open with like the single swipe, or they're like, what? Or it's in selfie mode and they're like, So knowing your gear is huge. You have to really know your gear, because fiddling with dials and like trying to open apps and all that kind of stuff, you're going to miss the moment. So you really need to know your gear. And in doing that, you need to be able to like slow down. You got to chill out if you're going to capture a moment. Sometimes you got to freak out and like respond, but for the most part, you have to be able to like slow down, realize a moment's happening, and be the fly on the wall, dial in, and get your settings where you need them, and snap away. So number one is really just like know your gear, slow down. It's all good, right? The second is you have to be patient, because moments you can't go like looking for. And that's what I would do early on, right? If something wasn't happening, I would be wandering around places. I'm like, oh, maybe there's something going on over here. And you do a little bit of that. But what you don't realize is as soon as you get up and move from where you were, the moment just it just happened. You should have stayed for another 20 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes. So really being patient, and it's the hardest thing. It's so hard because as a photographer, you're like, all right, I'm on the clock. I got to be moving. I got to be working for these people. I got to be like ready to capture a moment. Let me go see what's going on. But as I've been studying more photojournalism and learning from people who are like truly amazing photojournalists, being patient and getting open, right? So like in sports, to catch a pass, you have to be open, right? You have to be open. So that's where being patient is. You're just getting open. You're just being patient. You're like, I'm ready. Pass me the ball. Here it comes. And then when that moment happens, you can catch it. But if you're like, oh, the ball's coming, and then you turn and walk away, you're not gonna be able to receive it. So that's the thing. So tip 3 would then be, you know your settings, you're being patient, you're kind of like waiting, and now a moment has happened, or a moment is happening, it's presenting itself in front of you. And now the key is to shoot through the moment. Like just shoot the heck out of this moment, because what you're gonna do when you first capture a moment is you're gonna snap and be like, got it, I got the moment. And then other things are gonna continue to happen, but you're gonna kind of take your camera away or take your phone away, and other things are going to happen. So where I learned this best was from Two-Man Studios. So Two-Man Photography is Erica and Lanny Mann. They're two of the best photographers, wedding photographers in the world. They're very moment driven. Their photos are super epic, so check them out. But I did a workshop with them this year. And in that workshop, they said, okay, hey, Will and Lanny are going to arm wrestle. David is going to photograph this. And David, just photograph it however you would, and you guys are all spectators. So these two guys arm wrestled. David's shooting. Will wins the arm wrestling contest against Lanny. Everybody, and then David snap. Once the arm went down, his camera just comes down. Everybody's still cheering. There was high fives and stuff. And afterward, when we went and sat down, we're like, okay, did anybody notice what happened? And it was like, David, as soon as the arm went down and Will was declared the winner of the arm wrestling competition, he stopped shooting. Then he looked around and noticed people high-fiving and cracking up and whatever, and then picked his camera back up and started shooting like other things. And it was a lesson not to make David look bad or feel bad, but they were saying, we've done hundreds of these workshops, and every single time, that's what happens every time. Your inclination is to shoot, think you got the moment, put your camera down and move on. When shooting through that moment is because it kind of peaks and then it comes down. So you got the peak when the arm hit, but then you got all of that emotion kind of riding back down out of it, and people hugging and laughing and walking away. And it was really interesting. So there were some moments that were missed because that natural inclination to just say, yep, I got it. Just keep shooting. So that's really important when you're heading maybe between, like on a wedding day, there's a lot of times where you're like heading between one thing to the next. You're walking from doing portraits to maybe now you're walking back to the reception. Well, continue to shoot. Like if you're the photographer and you're hired to shoot, let them hold hands and walk, or have the groom help carry the bride's dress and let them walk and photograph things, because they're going to be looking at each other and they're going to be doing like, and maybe a cattle run by or so. Like there's just things that are going to happen that you can't script. And those are the things you need to be aware of and ready for. So moments are so, they're so precious, and we're always seeking them out, but you really have to be tuned in and dialed in to get them. So shoot a lot and keep shooting through the moment, and hopefully you'll come away with a great moment that you can be proud of and other people can look at and really be, drawn in by.
Those were really, really great. I think those are, I don't want to say this. I don't want to make any of our other photographers feel bad, but I feel like those were like the best tips we've gotten so far. So, if people were looking to be inspired by your work or or just wanted to see more from you, how could they do that?
Yeah, good question. So you can go to the website. That's mackeyphoto.com. Last name is spelled Mackey. It's almost like Mickey, right? Mickey. Only old people know that song because that was like my parents' generation. So like my mom's generation knows that song. Was that still the Mickey Mouse theme song when like you were kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. No,
Yeah.
but it was like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. That was like a totally different song.
No, but I'm talking about the ones that like my sisters.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're calling them out for being old. Right. I got it.
Also.
Yeah. So I'm Mackey Photo, but Instagram too. So just at Mackey Photo on Instagram, Facebook, kind of all social media. Yeah, that's a good place to go and kind of just see what my style is, see what's going on. If anybody has questions or wants to connect, you can shoot me a DM and say what's up. As you guys know, I'm always welcome to, meeting new people and trying to help people out and point them in the right direction. And yeah, just be inspired by other people too,
Yeah. So all of that information will be in the description of this event. So if you're looking for it, it'll be there, I promise. So you can go over and check it out. Like I said, his photographs are so gorgeous and you won't be disappointed that you went to check them out.
You guys are awesome. This is fun.
Anything else you want to say for the good of the order?
Nope, that's it. Just have fun out there, keep shooting, and be well, everyone.
And we're so excited to see you capture some moments. So if you want to put them in the event, you can go ahead and do that. Or if you post them to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media website is your preferred method, use the hashtag #WeSeePhotographyChallenge. And we can't wait to see what you come up with.